There's no doubt that the pandemic disrupted our lives and disrupted the rhythm of church attendance. And for some, it was a wake-up call. In fact, for all of us, in one way or another, it was a wake-up call. And I want to tell you the story of a pastor who used that difficult season to launch a fresh vision. Check out Zoe Hatcher's story.
So Zoe Hatcher lives in Bradford, Pennsylvania. She was a staff pastor at Open Arms Church. And in 2019, there was a transition of the church. The lead pastor moved on to a new assignment. This is a large, thriving church. And Zoe became the lead pastor of Open Arms Church in Bradford. Then COVID hit. The pandemic shook everything. The church shut its doors, couldn't gather. They did online streaming, but people began to fall away. And before you know it, many people got out of the habit of gathering to the church. Well, this was greatly distressing to Zoe because Zoe knew how many broken people were living in her community and they were isolated, far from Jesus and his people. Zoe was determined to bring the church to them. She just didn't know how.
The amazing thing took place that where Zoe was awakened to the call of God and the potential of seeing her ministry multiply. And so through the journey of an encounter weekend and through a lot of relational discipleship and networking, Zoe began to hear the voice of God saying, what if instead of inviting all the people to the church, that you take the church to them? And she launched a CDN training center where she trains ordinary unschooled people to start new works and plant churches.
It's absolutely amazing. Open Arms has become a church of churches. In the time they became a training center, Open Arms has launched 14 new churches, 12 micro churches meeting in creative spaces and places, and 2 more traditional sister churches growing up and actually becoming free Methodist societies, biker churches, churches with young moms, churches around knitting and doing community dinners everywhere they can, and in homes and in houses of the people. But what's so incredible with all this fruitfulness and success, Zoe Hatcher, Open Arms Church, has not lost its passion for the lost of northern Pennsylvania. They actually took out a map, an atlas of Pennsylvania, and they identified something like 18 rural communities that since the pandemic have 0 evangelical churches. That's right. 0 evangelical churches, because due to the pandemic, a lot of already struggling churches have closed their doors for financial means. This isn't in Africa. This is in America. This is Pennsylvania. And so what's the solution? Ask the Lord of the harvest to send workers into his harvest field. And now the training center is laying hands and anointing and sending new people saying, yes, Lord, to bring the church where there is no church, to reach people in creative spaces and places, to all communities everywhere.
So when you partner with CDN, you're a part of stories just like that. Churches being planted in creative spaces and places. And so I want to invite you to take another step into the CDN family. First, join us for Launchpad Prayer. It's a global gathering of prayer warriors where we ask the Lord of the harvest to send workers into the harvest field. You can join us on Zoom. Second, give generously to the work. When you give to CDN, your giving multiplies our impact.
Amen.
And third, I want to say, make Encounter Weekend part of the regular rhythm of your life. And if you're a leader in ministry, part of your ministry. It's available to everyone, and you just never know what the Lord will do when you bring someone to an encounter with God and they hear the call of God in their life. And so we're just so grateful for all that God is doing. We're seeing churches planted in creative spaces and places, in cities and in rural communities, in places all around the world. And we're grateful for all that the Lord is doing. We know that we're better together. And together we plant churches.